that because saa zingine mnasemanga we are not inclusive, especially of the creatives. Here we are. Kindly tell a friend that we are live on KRA TV. We have our website. When you just type www.kra.go.ke on your preferred browser, it will take you directly to KRA website where you will find us live, and also we are live on YouTube, and that is where also we normally do our sensitizations and anything, especially the Finance Act, now that is the in thing right now. We have everything that is placed there. So once again, thank you so much. My name is Caroline Suma, and I'll be the moderator of today. Martha?
My name is Martha Ngoko. I work at the Marketing and Communication Department and a division called Tax Education. So with Tax Education, it's just as I say, the name mentions, it's just a unit that we have whereby we organize such forums, hence the reason why Mr. Naftali, who is here, was able to get all of you and for us to be able to plan to be able to meet and get to have a sensitization. So without further ado, allow me to just start the program. And before I do that, we have more guests who have just joined us. Please keep to this side if you don't mind. Thank you. Karibuni, please feel free. So I would like to start us out with a word of prayer before I hand back the mic to the MC. So karibuni sana, please just take a minute to just take a breather, then we can pray. So let's bow our hearts. Almighty and Heavenly Father, we thank you for this afternoon. We glorify your holy name, we honor you, and we worship you. Father, as we begin this engagement, we know we planned for it from a long time, and that, Father, this day you have brought it into fruition. So, Lord, we want to ask that your presence be with us even as we begin, and even as we go through deliberating the scenarios and the tax issues that we have, that you enable us to understand and for us to have a good engagement. We honor you and we thank you. And for those who still need to be here, God, hasten them so that they do not miss. So we thank you and we honor you. And this I pray shortly, trusting and believing in your holy name. Amen. Back to you, MC. Thank you.
Karibuni sana, those who have just joined us. I can see our presenters are very ready. And let me call upon our assistant manager, Corazon, to give us the opening remarks.
So good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. The tones are so low. I hope you are excited to be here today. Personally, as we are quite excited to just have this conversation around animation and the taxation thereabout, we are happy to host you. We just want to tell you welcome. Karibuni sana, sana, sana. Feel free to ask any question. I repeat, any question. It does not matter how stupid it might sound. Please ask any question. So we are from Tax Education Department, and our job is in the name, to educate you about taxes. So my hope and prayer is you will not leave this office with any questions. Please, hizo zote mmekuanga nazo, munashangaa mutauliza nani. Today is your day specifically for you. We have our experts here just to answer the questions that you might have. So you're welcome. I think I'll pass it back to the MC.
Thank you so much, Corazon. I am itching to ask you questions because I can see our topic today is understanding taxation as a creative. Maybe as at now, maybe you know something, maybe some don't know at all. I'm not in a position to tell, but who is willing to tell us as at now, what do you understand? Like, what is your role as a creative? Anyone? Anything? Yes, please. Thank you. Maybe you can start with your name.
My name is Ernest. I'm a creative, I'm an animator, and doing digital. I think my role as a creative, or our role as a creative, is to comfort the disturbed and disturb the comfort. Yeah.
That's very unique. Thank you so much. Another one? Sisi Cinema Creatives. We are also creatives. KRA TV is also a creative platform. Anyone? Anyone? Okay, what are your expectations? None. Good, thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Naftali Murioki. My expectation out of this workshop today is I'll be able to understand more of taxation and the different taxes that apply to my creative work, and also learn at what particular point in time am I supposed to file those taxes. Thank you.
That is, I know our presenter has captured that very well. Anyone else? Something different, something similar. Maybe you can say, let me just echo what he has said. No, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Nadia Adiambo Oluochulunya, and I'm an animator and I run an animation studio called Nalo Studios. And for me, I'm really interested to learn how my practice can feed into, or rather I'm interested in learning more about how taxes work and to see how taxes can work for me, because I understand in the animation space there's ways to get tax breaks on an international level. So I'm really curious to see how that works.
Hello everyone, my name is Eric. Okay, so coming here, I'd wish to also understand, in as much as, okay, mostly the taxation is mostly focused towards the corporate side of things. So I'm kind of looking at how can it be handled towards the smaller guys, the freelancers.
That is very well captured. Thank you so much for those expectations. I hope at the end of the day we'll be able to fulfill your expectations and even much, much more. Once again, tell a friend to tell a friend. Mnaweza hata post status that kuna sensitization that is taking place at KRA, and it will be helpful even to those who are not following. Those who are following online, thank you so much for joining us. I hope also just write down on the chat box what are your expectations, any questions when the time comes for questions, then we will be able to answer them. Without further ado, let me introduce or welcome rather our presenters of the day. Let me start with Mr. James. Karibu sana.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is James Ochieng Okal. I work in the Digital Economy Tax Office, and which is under the Domestic Taxes Department. I have my colleague, Audrey. We have come with her to carry out this engagement. Thank you very much, Martha, for the organizing the engagement, and even our assistant manager, Corazon. So it will be more of an engagement than training. So you can be taking short notes where you can, and also you can ask questions just in case you have not understood a certain area. So I think you sent your questions. So most of you, they sent your questions. You sent your questions ahead of time. So I think we'll start with I don't know, Audrey, you'll scroll or Martha. We'll start with the questions. Then now the scenarios we'll handle at the end of the training, mwisho, where now at least we have understood one or two. Thank you.
we are delighted about it because services will now be available to residents of Siaya, businessmen in Siaya. They don't have to go to Kisumu or go to Nairobi. So you are, as it were, bringing services closer to the people.
Hi, how are you?
Fine.
You have given us a deadline.
Yes.
30th June.
Yeah.
Mimi nimefurahia sana kwa sababu banda la KRA leo limefika katika mtaa wetu wa Ngong, na hii ni jambo ya muhimu sana kwa sababu as we speak percentage kubwa ya Wakenya ni wale wenye hawacomplain na mambo ya KRA. Watu wanaona ni kama kulipa ushuru ni kupoteza pesa zao, lakini this time round tunawaambia ya kwamba kulipa ushuru ni muhimu na kulipa ushuru ni kujitegemea. And as citizens, as residents of this nation of ours of Kenya.
Now, how is creative industry important to the important to the economy? Now, you find that most of us cannot be employed at the same time, and even some of us who are lucky to employ it, we still do creative work. But at the end of it, you need to pay some taxes. At least you get your income, and also you pay something for the government. And these taxes you find at the end of the day is what we use to build roads, we use to build hospitals, and even some donations. So that's how important the creative industry is. And from the presentation you can see we have tried to segment it. It includes music, performing arts, visual, like painting, crafts, weaving, furniture making, video, radio, and photography. So you'll find like most of the time, when you walk along the street here, you'll see some young men trying to make a living out of photography. See, that one is creativity. They get some little income from whatever they are doing. So at the end of the day, this young man will need to file the return from the income he or she is getting from the work. So there are some questions. These ones I told you they were sent ahead of time. So we'll start with this one of withholding. Nani? Okay, thank you. Now, we'll start with the question 1, whereby some of you wanted to inquire about withholding tax. Now, how and when does one incur withholding tax? Now, this one, withholding tax will occur when the person who has given you work deducts that withholding. I think it's called the payer. When the payer deducts that withholding, then you will incur withholding tax. So there's several types. We have VAT. It can be in terms of VAT. It can be in terms of income tax withholding. So those ones are the major ones for resident, with VAT withholding and income tax withholding. So it depends with whether your service you are offering is vatable or chargeable with income tax. So the second one, how does one file for withholding tax? This one, we are going to tackle it at the end, how to file at the end, because I need to show you in the Excel how you are filing withholding tax. Then the third one, when does withholding tax at 5% become the final tax? And when does withholding tax becomes 30? So withholding tax at 5% is just for professional services like consultancy services. But it is not a final tax. When you are filing your income at the end of the financial year, you need to declare the withholding, and the income is further subject to taxation depending on the expenses you have. If you have the expenses, you now reduce, like let's say computer services or internet. If you are offering, if you use internet, or if you are you use accommodation. So there are expenses which you need to lessen from that when you are filing. Now, withholding tax is 30% when it is a company. This one now was when you are an individual. When it's a company, it's 30%, but it's also not a final tax. You need to lessen your expenses, then whatever remains, you subject to 30%. Are there any other types of similar tax to withholding tax that is supposed to pay? Yeah, I think earlier I explained that there's VAT apart from the income tax. There's VAT. We also have other types of taxes like digital service tax, but that one was it was removed for residents. But we have for digital content monetization, maybe when you create another session. Now, the question 2 was about turnover tax. When does a business incur turnover tax? Now, turnover tax is for those businesses which they get their income in any particular year should be more than 1 million, but less than 25 million. Initially, it was 1 million to 50 million, but the Finance Act 2023 amended it from 1 million to 25 million. So if your turnover is ranging between the brackets, then now you should be able to register for turnover tax. So I think we have answered that question. When does a business incur turnover tax? Now the second one, can any business or person pay turnover tax regardless of their turnover? No, not anyone can pay turnover tax, because this one you have the withholding tax brackets between 1 million, the brackets between 1 million and 25 million. So that one will qualify for turnover tax. Now, if a person pays turnover tax, are they obliged to pay any other tax? Now, when you pay turnover tax, you should not pay any other tax because it is a final tax. So if you choose TOT, the short form is TOT, it is a final tax. We don't expect you to pay any other tax. Now, if a person pays turnover tax, are they obliged to pay? No, I think that one we have answered. How does, we'll show you briefly how one can file for turnover tax. Now, do businesses operating as a sole proprietor qualify for TOT or turnover tax? Yes. Sole proprietor means you are the owner of that business. And mostly sole proprietorship, you'll find that most people register using their individual PIN or personal PIN. So sole proprietor actually qualify for turnover tax. What other taxes should a business paying turnover tax pay on a monthly basis? I think this is a bit repetitive. I said earlier there that turnover tax is a final tax. And it is, initially it was 1%, but the Finance Act 2023 amended it to 3% of your gross turnover. So at the end of the month, you have to total your sales and see what you have made or what you have got as the income. So whatever you have got there, you subject it to 3%. The only challenge you cannot lessen your expenses. It's just 3%. So it's a final tax, and it is on a monthly basis. Number 3 is about the incorporation tax, stroke company tax. So someone wanted to know what is incorporation tax. Incorporation tax is tax, just in simple terms, it's just tax paid by a company. A company is an individual. So don't confuse it with the individual income tax. So this one is incorporation tax. So this is for company tax. How should incorporation tax be calculated? This one also we are going to show you through at the end of the presentation. But incorporation tax, just note down that it is 30% for resident companies and 37.5% for non-resident companies. How does one calculate? When should incorporation tax be paid? Now, this one depends on the accounting date for that particular taxpayer. Majority of companies, you'll find the accounting year ends in December. So between the month of January to June 30th, you are given 6 months to carry out your tabulation and file your return. So if your accounting date is ending in December, that you should pay your incorporation tax on or before 30th June the following year. So you find some firms choose the accounting date to be April, some March, but majority you'll find they choose the month of December to be the accounting date. How does one calculate incorporation tax? I think this one also we are going to show you at the end of the presentation. But what you should know is just simple basics. Incorporation taxes, you get your turnover at the end of the financial year, then you lessen your expenses. After you lessen your expenses, whatever remains, you subject to 30%. Now, question 4, how does income tax work with consideration of gross income and net income? Now, I think I've explained that one a little bit earlier. Gross income is that income you have got at the end of the financial year, and you have not lessened any expenses. You have not removed expenses. When you remove expense, now it becomes a net income, your net income. Now, after lessening the expenses, now you subject whatever remains to 30%. So gross income is just your income without reducing the expenses. Now, what are the tax brackets, deductions, and credits available under this tax obligation? Now, tax brackets, like for individual, what you should just know that the lower bracket was introduced, I think the last two, it was 30, 32, then 35. Those ones are the only new ones for individual. 32 and 32.5 and 35. But the rest remain the same. The first 24,000 is subject to 10%, then 8,000, I think 3,000 and some amount was subjected to 15, then it flows like that until 35%. But it's also public knowledge. You can just, you Google it, it's on our website, you'll just see the tax bracket. Now for companies, I've told you it is 30% for resident companies, and for non-resident companies, it is 37.5. Now, tax credits which are available, if you have a credit at the end of the financial period, you can include them in your tabulation. Question 5 was about self-employment tax. What taxes do we have for self-employed artists? And how do they go about calculating and filing such taxes? I walk through filing will help. I think that one we're also going to do at the end, towards the end of the presentation. But what you should just know that for employment tax, self-employment, once you have a PIN, you know you have income tax. So at the end of the financial period, you should be able to file for your income tax. If it is company, it is income tax company. Now, businesses expenses and deductions. How do one calculate business expenses, including but not limited to? How do one handle business expenses, including but not limited to, such as software equipment, office space, and art supplies, and deduction when it comes to taxation? I think this one I also explained that if you read the Income Tax Act, there are those expenses which are allowable, and there are those expenses which are not allowable. So at the end of the financial year, you'll be able to see which expenses did you use to create that income. So you'll be able to lessen that expense. Like they have given us here, software, somebody used software, office space, art supplies, maybe somebody used internet, maybe somebody used computer expenses. So you will be able to lessen those expenses. How should one document and track document expenses for tax purposes? Now, one should be able to document your expenses because the commissioner may require you to produce them at any time. So you should be able to document your expenses, maybe on monthly basis, quarterly, so that you can be able to track. Now, estimated taxes. What are estimated taxes? How does one file estimated taxes? I think this question, I could have formed it in another way. Okay, we don't have estimated tax, but what I was thinking of installment taxes. Because installment taxes, they are like estimated taxes. Because you pay it on every 25th of every 4th month, 6th month, 9th month, and 12th month. So installment taxes, I can say it's like estimated taxes. You will be able to estimate what can you be able to pay for the first installment before the financial year ends. So installment taxes, just know they are like estimated taxes, but you pay them 4 times. So when you are filing at the end of the financial year, you'll be able to claim the taxes you already paid, like installment taxes. Let's go to another question, number 8. What taxes apply for animators who sell digital products, e.g., comic, books, t-shirts, with their designs, toys, etc.? What taxes? So this one, because maybe you will be selling your t-shirts. At some point, you do your documentation, and you wait for a long period while you are doing the documentation. So this one, you will just file income tax. Tax credits and incentives. Number 9, what are the current credits and incentives available for the creative sector? Now, one of the incentives which is available, I can say is available for the incentives for the creative sector is like if somebody has a disability. So when you are filing your end of year returns, you can factor in the disability certificate, and the first 150,000 will be exempted from tax. Then the rest will be taxed on the graduated scale. So that is one of the incentives someone can get. How do taxes apply if one is to buy, stock, import machine to help in production in a business? Now, when you import a machine, that one just know VAT, you will pay VAT, value added tax. Then there are I think there are also like some levies like the railway development levy, you will pay. Then I think there's custom duty, you will pay when you import a machine. Now, number 10 is tax filing process and timelines. What are the various processes of filing different taxes that relate to creative works? And what are the timelines attached to each? I think this one I've tried to elaborate. When you are filing your income tax, you should be able to file on or before 30th June the following year. If you have chosen TOT, turnover tax, it is on monthly basis, but before 20th. Tax professional and software. Are there any tax softwares that may be used to help one calculate taxation to ensure accurate and compliant tax filing? Yes. When you go to Google, you'll just see, you just Google RN calculator. AREN calculator. It will show you how to calculate your income. So that's one of the software. You just key in your taxable income and it will calculate for individual. For company, mostly they use auditors, and you have to have what is called audited accounts to file your company return. Number 12, when does one get tax paid back to them? Now, this one, there are several scenarios which can make one to get tax paid to them. One of them is when you pay tax in error, erroneous, you can get that tax. You can apply, and it will be refunded to you. Another one, it's not like a tax, but when you have a policy document, like for insurance policy, then you factor in. Then you will be given, it's not like a tax, but it's a refund which will be given back to you. These ones like ICA, Britam, those policies, you are given 15% of your premium up to 60, I think up to 60,000. With all this taxation, how do businesses stay afloat? Now, I think this one is a general question. Because what you need to do is just to plan yourself. Because you'll see so many businesses, even the private sector, as much as they are paying tax, they are just doing good. So what you just need is to maybe increase your client base so that you have more clients. Again, you take you take care of the tax incentives, like that one I was telling you. If somebody is disabled, yes. So I think let's go to one scenario, the first one, which was sent for discussion. Scenario 1. John, an animation artist who works from home, has gotten a character design and animation job as a freelance artist to work on a project for a client. Even though John is not employed, he's expecting to be paid 100,000 for this job in 2 installments. 1, when he finishes the character design. 2, when he delivers the final animation project. Considering John is not employed and does not have a monthly salary, he doesn't know when he will get his next work. Perhaps he will stay for 6 months without any other work while doing the job. John incurred expenses amounting to 40,000. This question was sent by I think one of you. Maybe Zia, maybe just watching. So in the above scenario, what tax obligation does John have? Anyone who has an idea? Or you can give somebody mic who has an idea. Considering what you have learned, you have gone through, what tax obligations does John have? Switch it on.
I think here John will be charged 5% withholding tax, or is it 30%? I think 5% withholding tax. So he might get 95, but I don't know about the expenses, how he'll be able to work with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other person?
So according to what we have learned, I think we should less the expenses. So we have 60, and then we do the 5% with the holding tax of 60.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much for the 2 contributions. Even though John is not employed, he's expected to be paid 100,000 for this job in 2 installments, which means he will be paid 50,000. Then at the end of it, he will be paid the balance when he delivers the final animation project. Now, John is not employed, and they are saying perhaps he will stay for 6 months or so when he has not gotten another job. So the tax obligations for John is, because John is an individual, I assume he's an individual, it's not a company. So John will be obliged to pay income tax, resident, individual. Are we together? Income tax, resident, individual. How should John go about filing his taxes? Now, when John is filing his yearly return, What John will do, he will take the gross income, assuming that he will have been paid 100,000, total 100,000. Then the expenses are 40,000. John will need to lessen 40,000 from 100,000. Are we together? Then whatever remains will be subject to, it will not now be 30% because John is an individual. It is subject to graduated scale, whereby the first income will be subject to 10%, 15, 25, like that, going downwards. But we are going to show you at the end of the presentation how we are going to factor in the expenses. Now, what are the demerits of John not paying his taxes on time? Now, if you don't pay your taxes on time, one, you'll be penalized for not filing on time. We have a penalty for late filing. Then we have penalty for late payment. So John will be penalized for not filing taxes on time, which is late filing and late payment. How does John file his returns on iTax? That one we are going to show you at the end of the presentation, how to file income returns online. We have a scenario 2. Mary has an event for our client, Event Masters Limited. A 3D animation artist, Mary has registered a business name, Mary Craft Designs, as a sole proprietor and has a bank account related to her business. Even though Mary has a registered business, she may go for months without getting some work for the Event Masters Limited work. Mary was paid 100,000 on receiving payment. On receiving payment, Mary noticed that the amount she was paid was less 5% withholding tax. Even though Mary gets this lump sum amount of 100,000, she doesn't keep any records, and as soon as she gets such money, she usually pays her pending bills and waits for the next job that she may find. I hope you have internalized it. What tax obligation does Mary have? Number 1. Number 2, considering that Mary's payment was 5% less, is there anything that Mary needs to do as an addition on matters of taxation? If yes, how does Mary file her returns on iTax? What tax obligation does Mary have? Audrey, give anyone a microphone. What tax obligation does Mary have? Anyone with an idea?
Sina maoni.
Is it income tax?
Thanks. That is the right answer. Now, the tax obligations which Mary has is, let me go back. the tax obligations Mary have me as an officer of KRA, when I'm doing my tax review, I will call for the records. On the other hand, Abdul will have declared that income. No, not Abdul, but there were two people. Mohammed and thing. He hired Simon and Mohammed. So when Simon and Mohammed, they are going to file their return, they are going to declare that 50,000 each on the other side. And they are going to declare Abdul as their employer. So they should link. When they don't link, it will raise an alarm to KRA officer. Then I'll just call for the records. Then I'll find a mismatch. Then now we start. You see? Yeah.
Because those who are employed, the graduated scale is done on monthly basis. Or what happens?
Thank you. The graduated scale is done on monthly and also on yearly. But remember, when you financial year, which means after a period of 1 year. So it will be yearly. Are you satisfied?
Because suppose he only does this one job, so are we going to divide the remaining 400,000 12 times, and then we graduate from what we get on the monthly? Or are we going now to do the whole amount, the 400?
No, we don't divide. You don't divide. But remember, that's why I said I'm going to show you in the Excel how it is done. Because you'll find maybe, or Simon and Mohammed, this is the only income they had for that period. And you know, when it's come to income tax, resident individual, you can't file monthly, even if it was a one-off. Sometimes even for 1 month, for this particular year, you say, yes, it was a one-off work. So at the end of the year, 30th June, is coming to file. So you declare it at the end of the financial period. So I'll show you.
Yeah. When it comes to Simon and, what's the other name? And Mohammed. The 50,000 that they have been, you have said Abdul can treat that as an expense, right?
Abdul has, so you see, he can treat that as an expense.
So he will not withhold 5%.
He will not withhold 5%.
Okay.
He will not withhold 5%.
Okay.
I still don't understand the difference between an expense and subcontracting somebody, because it feels, from this example, it could be arbitrary. If I don't to pay the 5% withholding, I'll treat any person I subcontract as an expense instead of as another individual with tax obligations. So I wonder, is there like a rule for determining between the two, or how does it work?
Yeah, there's, you know, when you subcontract someone, which means you have given him the work, civil. So when you you can decide to do a withholding, but now you must give it a certificate. Like this one they are saying, okay, the question I can say it was not very clear, because when I say Simon and Mohammed on a contractual basis. Now, when you talk of contractual basis is, contract is 3%. So it will force, if it was Abdul, it will force Abdul now to do a withholding of 3%. It is not now. Simon and Mohammed are filing the returns, they will need to declare the withholding, just in case Abdul withheld. Something. I think he wanted just to bring a scenario. But I'll show you how to key in the withholding certificate when you're filing at the end of the financial period. We have the fourth scenario. Stella, an animation artist, owns an animation studio registered as a company. In the animation studio, Stella has 3 employees. Are we up to there? In the animation studio, Stella has 3 employees. In a year, of the company. When are such obligations payable? How does Stella go about filing the various tax? Anybody with an idea? How the tax obligations for Stella?
Tax.
Thank you, that's correct. Another one? Okay, let me read it again. Stella, an animation artist, owns an animation studio registered as a company. It means he has a company pin. Are we together up to there? Then remember, Stella is also an individual, which means is so obligated for which income tax? Income tax resident individual. But remember, he's the director of this company. Then again, Stella is paying these employees' salary on monthly basis. Are we together? Up to there. So, what are the tax obligations that Stella should meet as the director of the company? 1, somebody said income tax company, which is correct for the company. 2, income tax resident individual for Stella. She will have to file as the director of the company. Then 3, Stella will have to file the payee or the pay return for the 3 employees whom she will be paying salary or will be drawing salary on monthly basis. Up to there, are we up to speed? When are such obligations payable? I think we have explained earlier. The income tax depend on the income tax company depend on the accounting year of the company of Stella. If it is December, Stella will file on or before 30th June of the following year. Same to individual for Stella, but payee, Stella will be filing on a monthly basis. Stella will file payee on monthly basis for the 3 employees. And again, the 3 employees at the end of the financial year will need to declare the income, which means Stella will have to issue this employee with a document called P9 form. Tuko pamoja ama tumepotea? Are we together? Okay, let's continue. How does Stella go about filing the various taxes? Huh?
Question. Say Stella has a salary band rate of how much she pays salaries at 400,000. That makes it that she'll need a salaries to cover 4.8 for the entire financial year. But now the monthly employee pay, will she, because maybe she won't be able to pay them that month or those 2 months, they go without salaries. Will that be less, 800,000? And does KRA accept payee of 0 in a given month?
Thank you very much for that question. Okay. To me, the assumption is that these employees of Stella, they didn't work one-off. They worked at the until the end of the year. But whereby it was just a one-off and it was a payee, Stella will just declare a nil return if it was a one-off. But this one is, they are saying in a year, Stella Studio makes 4 million, which means this is the gross revenue or gross turnover. Stella has not lessened the expenses, which she used as one of them as salaries. So when Stella is filing for her company, she will declare 4 million as the gross turnover. Then she will lessen the salaries and remuneration, which she has been paying these 3 employees the whole of the year. Now, whatever remains is what will be subjected to further taxation. Are we together? Thank you. Any question or clarification? Thank you for that question. I think if I say turnover, then that's a slip of the tongue. But for Stella only, the turnover doesn't apply. Because remember, Stella is a company, it's a registered company. So Stella will just go with the default obligation, which is the income tax company. Then, remember I told you turnover is a final tax. You don't need to file any other tax. Stella has employees. Stella is paying payee. So she doesn't qualify for TOT. Turnover is just for individual, but also for company you can have a turnover. But the problem with the company, you know, turnover, when you have it, there's on that pane, there's no any other obligation you will be obligated tax you will have. So for a company to just, if you want to file like this one payee, so they will have to file payee. She will have to go with she will have to add another obligation, which is the payee return. And it is pegged on the company pane. So Stella will need to file monthly, pays monthly on or before 9th. So, thank you. Any clarification? Or we move on? We go to scenario 5. As an animation artist owns an animation studio, registered company. In the animation studio, Hassan has 5 employees. This one is, I think, almost a similar scenario compared to that one of Stella. Hassan has 5 employees. In a year, Hassan Studio makes 10 million. What are the tax obligations? That's not Stella. I think it was an error. It was Hassan should meet as a director of the company. This is similar to the, almost similar to the other example we did. So Hassan will be having PAYE because Hassan has 5 employees. Then Hassan will also be obligated to income tax company. Hassan also, as the director of the company, will need to file his income tax return. So those are the 3 obligations which Hassan will be obligated to file. When are such obligations payable? For payee, I think I've clarified earlier that payee is filed on or before 9th of every month. Income tax company, depending on the accounting period, most people, they choose December. So you file on or before 30th June the following year, but you are given a grace period of 1 year to do your accounts. Then Hassan, as the director of the company, will also need to file his return, which is income tax resident individual return. How does Hassan go about filing various tax obligations to a company? So this one I'll also show you on the Excel. So up to there, I think we are home, unless somebody has a comment or a clarification. Yes, Audrey, give him the mic.
Thank you. I want to go back to scenario 2 about Mary, the sole proprietor. You say that she won't factor in expenses. Is that because she's a sole proprietor or because the scenario did not provide that? Scenario 2. Yes.
Thank you. Scenario 2, she will not factor the expenses.
Yeah, that's what you had said.
No, I just said, according to the way Mary, they did not provide us with the expenses. But if they said maybe expense was 100,000, then we could factor in that expense.
Okay. Yeah. And then another question, especially pertaining to the scenarios with the freelancers. Like for example, the one for the guy who got 500,000 as his income. What would he do in terms of filing if he'd gotten, like let's say, half the money before June, let's say May, but the rest will be after the filing period. Maybe he'd get the rest of the payment in August. How do you go about that?
Thank you very much. That's a good question. Now, when he gets the rest of the payment after the financial period, Sivo, the other financial year, and this one mostly happen for those who are doing they are using the accrual concept method of accounting.
Do you have a follow-up question from him? As a freelancer, you're not getting paid locally, but you're actually being paid by an online platform, say freelancer.com or Fiverr or Upwork. They pay you 500,000 or 800 or 10,000 for doing a job. Do you file that, or because it's money that is coming from out there, or are you exempted? Because from my understanding, it looks like an export. The work is being used out there, not locally. So should you refute from even declaring that tax? That's quite a concern in my mind right now. Yeah.
Thank you. Now, when you are paid by maybe Upwork, to you, is it an income, Mama? It is. How do you call it? That money you are paid.
To me, I'm just paid for a gig.
Once?
Yes, once. I'm paid, somebody has approached me to design a logo or animate a logo or animate a character. So they have outsourced the services to me as a professional.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know how KRA defines it, but to me I see it's like work that I've just received for doing somebody's work out there.
But you are getting as an income.
Yes,
See,
I'm getting an income, yes.
You will need to file it. You will need to file it.
Okay.
Now, this is where now the expenses will help you.
Yes.
Where I was saying, now when you are filing at the end of the financial period, you have to have your records. When you are doing that work, what kind of expenses did you incur? What did you use? You are using internet. You are using power. You are using what else? Computer. Rent expenses. So software. So what you are going to do? Maybe you bought software online. So what you are going to do when you are filing, you are filing before the before 30th June, what you do? You declare that 500,000, then you less your expenses which you used. Whatever remains, you remit to KRA, or is subject to graduated tax if it is an individual.
Okay. So this money I need to pay KRA at the end of the day.
Not really paying, but you need to declare. We use the term declare. Okay. Yeah, you need to declare that income that you got it.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's clear. Watu wa Fiverr mmesikia?
Sorry, I have a follow-up question. My name is Donald.
Okay, Donald.
So because it's mentioned international clients, when do you charge international clients? I remember there's something I was doing and I was told you don't charge them 16% VAT because it's foreign, it's income to the country. When you said export, that's when it clicked.
Yes.
Then sometimes, like there's one who said, I'm going to pay you 5% withholding, but don't charge me 16% VAT. They're exempted. So how do you handle those scenarios?
Thank you, Donald. Actually, the international clients or taxpayers, when they do withholding on income tax, it is 20%, which is final tax. So when you are filing, you'll just declare that income. But we also have another tax, which is for those clients without permanent establishment, which is called digital service tax. I think you are aware of it, DST. We will charge them 1.5% of the gross turnover. Then we also, if they do VAT, then they don't claim any expense, any purchases or expense. So we charge them 16%. That's why you have been hearing of 16% VAT, but they don't claim any expenses input. So they don't go scot-free the way someone may see it, because they have got the income from our country. Sawa.
Just to add on, okay, Upwork, you do with them their services. You do for them their services. Yeah. So as James has said, you have introduced digital service tax, which is also is not charged for residents. It's charged for non-residents. So the moment you make an income from Upwork, you get your share of income, isn't it? For them also, they get their share of income, the work which you have done for them. So for them, they are the ones who are now going to be charged. Now, like for you now, you just declare it, you got it, you got work done, and you are paid for it. But for Upwork, they will have to pay the VAT, withholding, if they have been doing withholding, 20%. Yes, just a clarity, eh? Yes. When you're dealing with non-residents, the non-residents are paying for the services which you have done for them. So they're filing on your behalf. Yes.
So if I'm dealing with Upwork, I don't pay anything to KRA, I just declare. Okay. All right. I thought that I have to also pay something to KRA.
Registered, and they are paying they are paying their share services, their share tax in Kenya. Yes. To you, James. Okay. Do you have other questions?
Clarification.
Thank you. I have a clarification, maybe a question. If you have a fixed income, that fixed income is taxable, but then your employer decides to give you some gratuity, some gift on top of your income, is that gift being taxable?
Thank you. Now, there's what we call non-cash benefits. Now, non-cash benefits are also taxable. If your employer gives you a non-cash benefit, you should, at the end of when he's compiling the returns, you should be able to value the non-cash benefit and tax it.
Hello, I have a question. For the turnover tax and income tax, let's say for instance somebody is operating as a sole proprietor and this person doesn't pay, or they do not pay themselves a salary. So does that person only pay the turnover tax, or how do you go about such a scenario?
He only pays himself what?
He doesn't, let's say for instance, somebody who operates Reja, somebody like you have a studio, an animation studio, you get work, you don't pay yourself a salary, you pay expenses. It's like, because that's mostly how most of the creatives operate. In that scenario, do they pay, let's say, an ideal situation, they're supposed to pay for an income tax, right? But if, let's say, for instance, they have registered or they are within the tax bracket of turnover tax, how do they go about it?
Thank you. If they're in the bracket of the turnover tax, then I guess that is they will be using that PIN. And turnover tax we have discussed is the final tax. When you do 3% on monthly basis, it will be the final tax. There's no idea tax.
They can operate without paying the income tax.
They can operate without paying the income tax. Once you pay turnover, you don't pay income tax.
But also you say turnover is calculated plus the expense, right?
No. I think that one was a slip.
Is it calculated on the gross or is it calculated on the net?
Gross sales. Turnover is on gross sales. Whatever you get without lessening your expenses. Yeah. So you don't include the member your expense, yeah. You just take whatever you got, 3% on monthly basis, and that's the final tax.
My online audience, someone is asking, do both individuals registered in a business name need to file returns?
Thank you. I think there was a scenario here we saw, I don't know, was this Stella who was using, or I think it was Mary who was using a business name. So when you're using a business name, what it means is simple. It's just the business name is linked to your PIN as an individual. So you need to file. But now you'll file as an individual, not as a company.
So far, all these scenarios have always been about single client, single service provider, aka freelancers. What if you get multiple clients, do multiple jobs before the end of the fiscal year? Are you supposed to tabulate all that income, or are you going to do it on an let me say stream, especially when it comes to international clients? Sometimes you can be paid in dollars, other times in pounds or rands or whatever. And how are you supposed to deal with the conversion rates? Because sometimes you could get some money and not use it, just stays in a foreign account. And then by the time the fiscal year is coming to a close, maybe the rates higher. So are you supposed to file it with the rate of that day you receive the money, or the day you're withdrawing it? If that makes sense.
Thank you very much. That's a very good question. Now, when you do a freelance, maybe you get a job today, maybe from Spain, you get that job, you are paid. Another one you get from US, you are paid dollars. Another one from Germany, they pay you. So what you need to do, you need to tabulate or record all this income somewhere. And as you have said, they'll stay in some account until some other time, is it? When you want to withdraw it. Now, when you want to exchange, I think you go to the CBK website, central bank website, and you'll see the rates for that particular day when you receive the money. So you can use that rate, the rate of that particular day, to convert into Kenya shilling. But remember, you have been getting them from different countries. So you total up, you tabulate the all income you get in that particular year, you total up after converting them to Kenya shilling, then you declare them in the return.
Any other questions?
Someone is asking, how does one file taxes for various sources of income that one offers? Is it the same protocol as for each if they are a business or a sole proprietor? How does one file taxes for various sources of income that one offers? Is it the same protocol as for each if they are a business or sole proprietor?
Thank you. I've gotten it. I think there are different. The protocol applies the same. If it is a company, you just file income tax at the end of the financial year. If it is individual, you just file individual income tax at the end of the year. So depending on which obligation you have, if it is TOT, you have chosen turnover tax, 3% on monthly basis. I don't know whether I've answered it correctly. So thanks. You can change at the end of the fiscal year. But you know, as a taxman, I'll also be wondering why you are changing this obligation every time. So I think the best is just to look at your business and you see which one is best applies to your business so that that consistency can be seen.
Maybe just two burning questions. One is about refunds. Well, declaring my taxes, I got a negative, which I know it's supposed to be a refund. And I went online and I got a little bit shocked that KRA does not refund or takes ages. So I'd just like to know the process. Probably we are not following the due process. The other question is on withholding tax. If I have a company, it's a limited company, and I work for an organization that is exempted, why should they still do withholding tax? Is it legal for them to do a withholding tax? And if they do, the third question, a follow-up from that, let's say the NGO still, they are tax obligated, and 16% VAT. Again, they say they are withholding 5% from the same amount, so they take away 5%. So will I get a refund when I declare that tax as a limited company, as a registered company? So those are the three questions that I had. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's start with the question of refund. Now, the only scenario like that one you have given, that when you are filing your return, you saw you have come up with a negative. Now, how does the negative arise? The negative arises when your expenses is more than the net income or whatever you are filing. So what KRA does is, we always say you are in a credit position. So what happens is that the next financial year when you are filing your returns, this credit will reduce your tax payable. So you carry forward this credit to the next financial year. So that is the option we have. So refund is not applicable there.
For a bank account, so we are expecting a deposit from KRA. I was expecting, by the way.
In fact, we deactivated that part. Nowadays, it doesn't require even for bank account.
So it will cancel out.
It will cancel out when you file the next return.
So if my employer is still filing or is declaring my payee, for instance, is doing my payee, does that mean that the negative will still continue occurring, or how do I notify him that this month pay me more, less my payee this amount, or how does it go so that it cancels out with the negative?
No, your employer at the end of the year will just pay you, maybe he will pay you monthly, or maybe he will pay you lump sum. So when you are filing, at the end of it, negative, you are carried forward.
Yes.
So when you're filing, you put your gross income, then you put your credit, which you carried from the following year, for the last year. Yeah. Then it will net off.
Okay. So do I pay, will I get more salary because I have a credit with KRA so that the pay does not go as usual? Let's say my pay is 11,000 or 20,000 that I need to do to KRA. If I have a negative of 60, a credit of 60,000, do I get a break of 60,000 so that I don't do a payee for 60,000 so that it cancels out?
No, it doesn't work out like that. Your employer will just continue remitting the pay, but at the end of it, of the financial year, it is you will now declare. What was the second question? There was a second question. I've forgotten.
The second question was about the withholding tax, whereby an NGO claims that they are exempted from tax. In other words, they have a tax exemption certificate, but they still withhold. So you don't pay them 16%, but when they pay you back, they are withholding 5% from your payments as a company. And then the third question, a follow-up from that, if an NGO or a company still withholds 5%, and then they ask you to pay, you also charge them 16%, how will I recoup back my 5% that was withheld? What's the meaning of withholding tax? Do I recoup it back? And then the question of an NGO which exempted from tax, but they still ask for a withholding tax of 5%.
Thank you. Okay. See, in simple terms, just get it that withholding tax is like an advance tax. It is just tax which is you have paid ahead of the period. But it is not a final tax, because like that one of the 5% is a professional, which means you offered a professional service to the NGO. So NGO will withhold 5% and remit it to KRA. But remember, this one is not a final tax. It's not a final tax. So you, when you are filing your income tax, you will file, then you will less the withholding which was withheld 5%, and it will reduce your tax payable. Correct? No, 16% is VAT. This one we are talking of income tax. Yeah. VAT is when you are offering a vertible service, or let's just vertible service, then VAT is applicable. VAT is a different tax. You don't confuse it with income tax. And VAT, you know, it is monthly. It is monthly. Like what we always hear, that suppliers are supplying a certain company, the services or the goods are charged VAT. That's a different tax.
I'll pick up on what he said. So the same NGO that is going to give him some work, when he's quoting, they're going to withhold 5%, but then he'll also have 16%. You see what I'm talking about?
I'm getting you. Those are two taxes, remember? Withholding 5% is income tax.
Yes.
16% is VAT, which means there are two services offering. The other one of 16% is VAT. But VAT now, the NGO should hold 2%, not 16%, 2%.
So when he's quoting, you don't charge them 16%.
When he's quoting VAT, the service is VATable, it should be 16%. But when income, 5%.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
The taxable amount, I guess it's starting from around 24,000, right?
Okay, yes.
So for people who have an income tax that's below 24,000, are they supposed to declare their income?
Yes, the people who are getting below 24,000, that is below the tax bracket, they are supposed to, even if they declare, it will not be chargeable. So they do not need.
So does that mean somebody who salary that's less than 24,000, they need not to file for returns?
They will file at the end of the financial period, but you will always you just declare in your return, but it will not be a big.
I have a question about digital service tax.
Okay.
So, mentioned Upwork. Are all companies automatically registered for it, or does each international company have to register for it to remit digital service tax to Kenya?
Okay, all digital service tax initially, all companies operating within the jurisdiction of Kenya and they are non-resident, they are supposed to register for digital service tax and remit the 1.5% tax. Audrey can chip in.
Okay, I would say digital service tax. Initially, it was introduced in 2020, and residents and non-residents, they were both paying for the tax. But reaching in 2021, January, the residents were removed from the regime. So nowadays, it's non-resident. Being non-residents, so non-residents are the ones who are paying for digital service tax, and they are paying on behalf of the residents. For example, you're saying Upwork. Upwork right now, let's say you're doing services for them, yes, and Upwork is the one which now is paying for the digital service tax on your behalf, on the behalf of the client. So you as a resident, you are not liable to pay for digital service tax. So now residents, they are not allowed to pay for their services. It is the non-residents doing on behalf of the residents. Yes. Have you answered your question? Okay, welcome. Yeah.
What if it's a company that is new? So like, let's say somebody starts a startup in Norway tomorrow and they want to hire me for my specific niche skill. Do they have to come, in order for them to work with me, do they have to register under Kenya's jurisdiction first? In order, or will I be caught out for it later? Will they have to remit that 1.5% later on?
A monthly payment return on 1.5%. And the non-resident, well, so long as the non-resident is dealing with resident, Kenyan residents, they are liable to register for digital service tax and VAT when it's payable, when it is avertible. Yes, so if you, maybe let's just give example with Upwork. I know everyone is very familiar with Upwork. Right now, the way you're dealing with Upwork, Upwork is supposed to register, which it has already registered. It's paying the services which you are referring to, which you are rendering them. Now they are paying on, Upwork is paying on your behalf. So when a company, non-resident company, is doing services in Kenya, they are liable to register. But if not, they are not allowed to register. Yes, only the one who are dealing with. Yes. Any other question?
Two questions for me, but not as a sole proprietor, just as a design consultant. How do I go about filing that? Because in that scenario, I'm using employer income, and by evening I have other sources of income through the design consultancy. So how do I go about filing that? And then the second is with the rise of streaming platforms, like for example Twitch, if I'm doing those streams, the people who are viewing you can donate money. Is that taxable? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, if you have other streams of income, now at the end of the financial year, you should be able to declare, because on the Excel they will say, the Excel will ask you, do you, on the Excel, the way I wanted to show you, Now you can declare those other sources of income in one return. The second question is about views, streaming. Now that one brings us to another tax which is called digital content monetization, which was recently introduced by the Finance Act 2023. Now, that one is 5%. I think Audrey can clarify more on the digital content monetization.
So, may I ask a question that will touch on that? So, when it comes to the digital content monetization, what does KRA refer to as digital content? That's the first. And on a follow-up question on the digital service tax that's paid by the platforms. So let's say, for example, I'm a YouTuber, and that's the only way I earn money. Considering it have been said that these platforms pay the digital service tax on my behalf, will I be required to file for income tax?
Those are good questions. Okay, I'll say about YouTubers. As you have heard about the Financial Act 2023. So when it comes to YouTube, you're a YouTuber, isn't it? Yes, and YouTube is paying on your behalf, isn't it? So YouTube now will withhold the 5. Throw that question to James to explain well.
Thank you, Audrey. Now, the digital content is just take it as it's a payment. You are paid for the services you have offered, like advertisements on websites, views, the way you have said. Maybe you have brand sponsorship and affiliate. Maybe you are doing marketing for other companies, and maybe that's what I can say. Maybe you have a regular fee for people viewing your content. You are paid. You are a content creator, so you are paid a regular fee. So whatever tax, when you are declaring your annual return, income tax, you need to declare whatever you got as the income, then less the 5% which was withheld by the payer, whoever was paying you, whether an unresident or YouTube or whatever. But that's the new tax for which has been introduced by the Finance Act 2023 for digital content creators. Okay. How much do they charge?
I'm not sure about the percentage, but YouTubers are usually taxed in the US. Is it something you are taxed, let's say, for instance, in one jurisdiction, then you won't be taxed in your jurisdiction?
Thank you. In fact, that's a good question. In fact, whereby you want to come up with a unified approach of taxation. So when you are taxed somewhere, you don't need to declare. But again, You know, like you find Kenya has a tax treaty with UK. So when that income is taxed there, it should not be taxed here. But where they don't have treaty now, there's a problem.
Going back to initial question about streaming, you had said sell stuff through the platform, but what I actually meant was maybe you're just being viewed, you're not exchanging, you're not selling anything, you're doing something, but you've opened the channel for them to give you money. Now, for example, somebody's giving you $1, another one $5, another one $100. Is that still taxable?
Yeah, that one is still taxable because it is an income to you. So they are giving you money.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an income to you.
Martin is asking, how does tax work for a newly developed studio? Say in 1 year, you get 1 or 2 jobs making 500,000 Kenya shillings. Is it liable to tax, or are new businesses given a grace period?
Actually, there's no grace period. Once you start, you just pay your taxes. It can be a one-off, 1 or 2 off, but you have to tabulate it and record it. So at the end of the financial year, you should be able to declare that income.
Yeah, so the digital taxes. So you said there can be an instance where the platform that you are creating your content will pay for the other side, the digital tax income.
Digital content.
So my understanding is the content will fall on your side as the creator, and then there's the other tax where the foreign company pays on your behalf. So are they mutually exclusive, or they just both apply at once? There's the other tax. There's the digital content monetization, which, as I understand, it falls onto the creator, and then there's the other which the company withholds. I've forgotten the name for the non-residents. If someone can remind me. Yeah, the digital tax. The digital service tax is withheld by the online company, the foreign company, where you are selling your services. So they will withhold the digital service tax, and then once they've withheld the digital service tax, now as you as the creator, you will still have to go through the digital content monetization tax after that, or how does it apply?
Thank you. Don't confuse the two. Digital service tax is 1.5% of the gross turnover, but initially it was for resident, but the Finance Act, I think 2020, removed resident. So it is for non-resident without permanent establishment in Kenya. Just by the mere fact that you have accessed that platform, KRA will charge them 1.5%. So digital content monetization, we also have we have 2 rates. We have the rate for the resident individual, our residents, our Kenyan residents. Then we have that one for the non-resident. For the non-residents who are content creators, it is 20%, is it? But for the residents, it is 5%. Now, the way you have said, as a content creator, it falls, it is Why do you do content creation? It's to create income for you. So that income is what KRA is going to suggest, 5%.
On top of that, you add the income tax on top of the digital monetization. Will you now forgo the normal individual income now? Or yes, those are now the blurry lines where people can see instances of double taxation even just within our own, like you're paying the digital content and then you're paying the income, and then it was withheld somewhere. So you wonder, like, how much will you remain with in the end?
I don't think it is a double taxation. It is not a double taxation. The way I think my friend here said, you might be having streams of income. Maybe you are a content creator, at the same time you have another income from somewhere. So you declare all of them, and maybe if the tax was withheld, in fact, it will reduce your tax payable. It is not a double taxation. Okay. It is not.
You can make it as an expense from, okay. So, like, when does like one qualify for this? Because now, how it is being framed? Because now, the digital content monetization, 5%. So the person that qualifies to pay for this digital content monetization, does he qualify for any other taxes, like individually, or?
Yeah, someone like just let's give example. See, I'm employed by KRA.
Yeah.
But I can also do a side also of a content creator. So when I'm filing my return, I combine salary ya KRA na hiyo ya digital content monetization, and I declare that income.
So the money that you got from YouTube won't fall under your individual taxes, individual return.
YouTube.
Yeah, the YouTube income itself. So if you are a full-time content creator now, I've earned money from YouTube. So that's my income, personal. So when it's an income, generally an income, you have to file it in the individual taxes. No, but in this case, since it's digital, it's coming from a digital platform. When this digital content monetization reduce my tax, will it take over the income tax that I'll have to pay, or will this content monetization reduce my taxable income at the end of the period?
It will reduce. That's why we are saying by withholding 5%, when you are declaring your income at the end of the financial period, so you are going to declare your 5%, just treat it as a tax paid in advance. So it will reduce your tax payable.
I have a question about tax treaties in our favor. Is there a place where we can access that literature outside of our own civic curiosity? Is there a place on the KRA site where we can see tax treaties or regions that would work for us as Kenyan creatives?
Sure. If you just Google tax treaties, countries with tax treaties with Kenya, you will get the list of names. But again, I think the treaties were revised. So we are yet to come with a complete list of countries which Kenya has a tax treaties with. But for the time being, you can Google and you check, because it is public information. The tax treaties.
So I have 3 questions from the online community. One is asking, when does VAT apply? The second one goes, how are grants and loans given to a company taxed? Does it fall into the non-cash benefits? And the last one, if I run an online website selling my own 3D models and other assets, what kind of tax will that attract, and is it subject to VAT?
So the first question, VAT will apply when you offer a vatable service or when the service is vatable. I can say like that. Or when the service which you are offering to that particular company is chargeable to VAT. Like my friend just said, the company offered him, deducted 5% withholding, and also he charged them VAT. So only when that service is chargeable to VAT, then you can offer, then VAT is chargeable. The second one is?
How are grants and loans given to a company taxed? Does it fall into the non-cash benefits?
No, grant and loans we don't tax. What we allow you as a deduction when you're filing your income tax is the interest on loans. That's why those NGOs are exempted.
And if I run an online website selling my own 3D models and other assets, what kind of tax will that attract, and is it subject to VAT?
No, when you run an online model, you'll just be subject to income tax. So I think let's show you briefly on how to file income tax.
As you set up, interesting conversation, because I think this is going to be, we're going to be coming back to interact with the KRA.
Okay.
And I'm glad that AAA has done this, because the questions we ask is not because we don't want to pay. I think it's a lot of gray areas. The other day, my company, I was told there's a deadline. I had to go to KRA to be onboarded on the online platform. Point someone we can come to on an individual level. Like I would like to come and get someone who can go through the history of my company, the transactions, and how I've interacted with KRA as you take us through that. And then another thing is I'm hearing a lot of monthly. We really don't get work like monthly, like a salary. Sometimes it's a contract that can last an year and last you another 2 years. So I think those are the issues that we'd like to address with KRA when you address monthly and we don't get work like monthly. That's not how work. That's not how we get income, especially like for me. It's probably on a contract basis. Yes. So I'll appreciate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The first question, I can't really promise that I can appoint someone to take you through, because you will find most of these pins, like you are maybe you have a company. That company is mapped to another tax station, which maybe it's Mombasa or Nairobi or Kisumu or wherever. And the pin has an account manager. So if you can get that account manager to take you through how to file, it would be okay. But I'm also glad if you can get my contacts or Audrey's, we can be able to assist you offline. The second one is about, you asked about the income is irregular.
Yeah, you mentioned 1.5% monthly.
Okay.
So that's why you find you're associating us with monthly, we're not associating ourselves with monthly regular income. Yeah, so that's a challenge. So you find you go back to KRA and a lot of it's 0, 0. You get one contract lasts 2 years.
I think the best is to just look at what's fitting you. If you get like a contract for 2 years and after 2 years you don't get a contract, just file nil return. Just file nil return. So Thank you very much, guys. I've been told that we can have another session to take you through this, how to file the return. Because time has gone, we have only 13 minutes to 5. So maybe we'll have another time to take you through, but I really wanted to take you through so that you differentiate and you see how you can be able to file the return.
I know we are running out of time, and I just had last 2 questions. I've asked so many questions, and I believe on the next session I can also ask whatever I had. The first question is on bonus. Those people working in corporates, sometimes they get bonus. Are they treated under payee, or is it exempted from tax? That's one. And then the other question is, if I have a company and I've bought a machine from outside that has come in, let's say at 1 million shillings, and that machine I'm using it to work, or let me not say I've imported it, I've bought it locally, and I paid VAT for it. How do I get tax relief from it? Because I know there is a depreciation, and I have to. It depreciates for 7 years. Do I pay less taxes to KRA because the machine is continue working? That's the question that I have. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very technical question. Now, when you bought the machine and you're using it to work, now when you are filing your return, there's what is called investment deduction allowance. Now, you will be able to deduct the amount of depreciation on the value of your machine when you are filing, and it will reduce your tax payable. On the issue of bonus is taxable. So when you are paid bonus in any particular year or month, just know it is taxable. And it will be taxed on the graduated scale. The first 24,000, next 8,000, like that until the maximum tax bracket. Yeah, on a graduated scale.
Thank you, ladies. Allow me to just intervene, or rather, I'd like for us to agree, because we cannot tackle everything in this sitting. Even if we were to go through the returns, for example, trust you me, I feel you need to absorb what it is that you have taken today. And with Mr. Naftali here, I was just having a discussion with him earlier, and I was telling him, I think we would want to have a couple of curriculums, maybe 2 or 3 more sessions, or 4, depending on whatever it is that you feel would work. So when, as you're leaving here today, allow us to agree on another date, maybe in September or October or November. We agree before you leave. And when, as you come, please make sure you also carry a friend, and then we can be able to tackle, because the questions are quite many. I believe there is so much to be demystified. Therefore, let's agree just today on the best timing, rather another engagement, so that we can plan and I can be able to book this hall for the same. Feel free. Could be September, October, or going forward. So in the meantime, let me appreciate all of you before I hand over the mic to the MC. Thank you. Mr. James, do you think we take a break now? Or you still want to continue?
No, I think we take a break.
Okay.
And the way you have suggested, we'll have another session. Maybe they can agree the way you have suggested, maybe October or September.
Yeah.
But I think October can be well.
October.
We can do another session, And we take you through all these, because filing also takes a lot of time. Only one return, you can take like 15 minutes, then you ask questions, clarifications, we go to another one. So I think maybe the next session we can handle that.
Okay. I think we will plan with the team that organized this. However, Madam MC, I would like to give my guest a tea. So in the interest of time, I think we can call this call this an end of the engagement.
But before that, allow me to recognize my online audience. They were very engaging and asking questions. And when you answer, they actually get back and reply and say yes. The questions were well answered. Audience, or rather our online audience, for tuning into KRA TV. Continue keeping it KRA TV. You can also share this link after this, as wide as your connection gets to. Thank you so much. And to you, our audience right here, thank you so much. We don't take it for granted. The questions were, we didn't expect that, and we didn't expect even you would suggest for another meeting next time for us to continue engaging on matters tax. Thank you once again. There's a cup of tea outside waiting for you. Enjoy yourselves. Till next time, tunasema mbarikiwe.
Asante.
Come and file their KRA returns.
Watu wangu wa Ngong, hamjambo? Huyu ni mheshimiwa wenyu Miriri Mwaora.
First of all, for receiving this delegation from the Kenya Revenue Authority, and the fact that you now have a presence in Siaya. An office has been established here in Siaya. Because services will now be available to residents of Siaya, businessmen in Siaya. They don't have to go to Kisumu or go to Nairobi. So you are, as it were, bringing.
Hi, how are you?
Fine.
You have given us a deadline.
Yes.
30th June.
Yeah.
Mimi nimefurahia sana kwa sababu katika mtaa wetu wa Ngong, na hii ni jambo ya muhimu sana kwa sababu as we speak percentage kubwa ya Wakenya
nitalala vizuri na next time I'll make sure nime improve every year nitakuwa nikifanya returns.
Under Kenya Revenue Authority. It is the first time coming here. I've been filing my returns through the cybers and everything. But today I decided to pay